Ladies and gentlemen, after being crapped on for so long since the beginning of the year in this market, I can't help but I'm sure many of you feeling pessimistic with the slight hope every day seeing this green in our portfolio starting to rally back here. The prudence of cost averaging in the indexes for me, at least in my TFSA, are showing quite a little bit of green here over the last month, and it's kind of always astounding to see the markets start off with some profit taking at the beginning of every single trading day, followed by ending the day usually green. And this has led to a lot of large debate across the entire investing community. Is this a bear trap? Is this part of just a bear market rally? Because obviously the likes of Michael Burry seems to think so. And I want to break down some of his tweets because recently, apparently, he's been doing a lot of stock trades. And I think this guy is kind of just cracking at the seams. I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. But contrary to the internet and the Twitter sphere, there have been bear market rallies that eclipse 50% retracement and led to a lower low. April 1930, November 1938, June 1946, and since 1950, November 1968. It depends on how you define a bear market rally and or a cycle and a life charts. But nonetheless, a lot of people have been kind of getting battered because there's been a lot of hope, a lot of bullish sentiment, and it's always getting beaten down by even these billionaire investor funds, right? But the thing with Michael Burry that I find so interesting is, again, it's kind of based off circumstance, and that's what I keep telling you guys, the self-fulfilled prophecy of you taking in data that suits your circumstance. And Michael Burry is a champ at this because many of you may know he had a wicked short against Apple that he took out back in May, or at least some puts, right? And Apple, since he's been talking about that put bet, which I think it was a massive amount of shares. I mean, how much was it? Like 206,000 shares. I think it was something like 15 or 17% of his entire fund was basically putting against Apple, which we all know the stupidest thing in the world is to bet against these super, world-renowned companies, especially the likes of Apple doing share buybacks. You get this base of investors, all these index fund investors. There's so much money flooding into this stock. It just seems so ridiculously casino kind of risk gambling to kind of bet against it, right? But that's just the start, right? I mean, Michael Burry is paper-handed on all of us. The guy that keeps telling us, hey, this is going to end bad. The markets are heading into a new calamity of a multiples compression. Yet here we go with a tweet that just came out where apparently Michael Burry has sold out of every position except for 3.3 million shares of GEO Group. And I'm kind of shocked by this because he was invested in Google and all these other stocks. But GEO Group, for those of you that don't know, is basically a private prison and mental health facility company, one that I used to own. I'll never own it again. We've talked about the idea of not buying companies that these big pension funds, these big hedge funds, they don't meet ESG rules and obviously community and social governance rules, that they're never going to see big money again, in my opinion. And apparently it's the only one he's betting on, considering, again, Google's been rallying nice here and he had a big position in Google. I don't think this guy makes money anymore. This guy should just stay out of the market because, again, he seems more like a degenerate gambler, like more of these Wall Street bet kind of guys. Because, again, he has shorted Tesla too, right? I mean, he had some short bets or puts against Tesla once upon a time, and he never holds these things through. He just berates everyone on Twitter, tries to get some negativity around the stock, and as soon as it drops, he usually sells out of it, right? Like, the guy's a paper hander because it's just impossible to predict this stuff accurately again and again. And again, shorting the housing market here, I think I was watching Financial Education, and Jeremy made a good point that this guy's never shorted a stock and made huge money. Like, this guy's never made huge money in the stock market. When he was shorting the housing market, that was through credit default swaps and things like that. Like, it was so segregated into a whole different market that it had nothing really to do with the stock market. And I'm going to get off my soapbox here and stop reaming Michael Burry. But the problem is that he's not the only one following this sentiment. A lot of my favorite YouTubers are saying things like this.
The towel's not clickbait. I've sold all my stocks, I've sold all my crypto, and I'm going to tell you why.
The reason why is quite simple. He thinks this is a bear market rally. He's made a lot of money buying the recent lows, and he just doesn't want to leave anything at risk. But since posting this video, which was August 11th, so I imagine he did this a day or two, maybe a week before, we can see that the markets continue to rally, right? Again, not that this is continued moving forward. This could truly be a bear market rally, but we don't know, so we don't make predictions on this, right? And I always find it interesting that we always have to kind of come back to these really old investors, like these guys that have been around the block so many times that we know this is just the dumbfounded way to make money in the markets, but yet we have such a hard time following this, right?
Last month on Louis Rukeyser, you summed up your investment philosophy as buy everything and hold it forever. Do you still subscribe to that in light of what the market has been doing, or would you unload some things now?
No, my theory is not subject to the ups and downs, the peregrinations of the stock, the unpredictable peregrinations of the stock market. It's painful to do, but I think the idea of owning the stock market is the best approach to equity investing, and perhaps I didn't make that thoroughly clear.
I mean, common sense, right? We just cost average into the ups and downs. We always have a long-term retirement fund with our indexes and ETFs. Well, we also, again, if you have the intuitiveness to want to get involved with individual stocks, you make it a healthy speculative percentage of your portfolio. But what I want to do is just wind back a little bit and make people understand what we've kind of just seen happen and why it's likely we could potentially have seen the bottoms in the market, though we could flatline, come back down a bit. I just have a hard time believing that we're just going to see some kind of wicked lows beyond here, just based off like the amount of leverage that is unwound. I'm waiting for the July data to come out from FINRA for just the margin statistics, because this is what really fascinated me, was that, you know, in this greedy market of low interest rates, easy to borrow cheap money, and people just leveraging, and we're going to talk about where this matters with crypto in a second, but in the stock market even, right? Like, people have just removed risk. We got greedy. We kept forgetting the fundamentals of, you know, having an emergency fund, you know, paying off our loans, our car debt, our student loans, and fixating on getting all that out of the way so we can save and just focus on income, perhaps buying a house, real estate, things like that, right? People just realized they could leverage everything. The markets were going up for a decade, so why not keep doing that? Those people have been wiped out. I mean, we've seen it here. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars wiping out of margin in people's stock accounts. And I mean, Robinhood was very pronounced for this with options trading. So I feel like that was one of the biggest problems, and it was super pronounced within crypto, right? Here's like an estimated chart back in January of the crypto leverage, because unlike the stock market where you needed to have, unless you found a hack on Robinhood or some kind of workaround with the system, I mean, it was hard to leverage yourself 9 ways to hell in the stock market. But with crypto, you could 100x leverage yourself and just keep sending crypto to multiple platforms and continuing doing this infinite leveraged glitch in the system, right? And what that has led to is a huge amount of speculative insanity unwinding, which I'm glad it happened now rather than later, because if we let this thing kept running, oh God, it would have gotten so bad. And these are all estimates. Nobody actually knows, right? But I think it's pretty apparent within like the Bitcoin price itself. And I'm tired of listening to these crypto pumpers. And don't get me wrong, I love crypto. I own crypto. I got nothing against crypto. It's just a matter of understanding the environment and what happened and why you can't just sit here and think, oh, we're going back to the moon. I'm still seeing this on TikTok. I'm still seeing this across the board. All these crypto guys just for some reason think that because now we're getting some more ETFs, there's just a lot more advancements, more ways that crypto has to evolve. But that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because all of these tens of billions of dollars, literally probably hundreds of billions of dollars in leverage, is wiped. And that's not going to drive the Bitcoin price back to its all-time high anytime soon, let alone any of these altcoins, which is why I think it's more intriguing that people like Alex Becker, which is a huge crypto guy, is more into trading the crypto space, because again, like, you have to understand that this is super speculative, right? And it's just, now is probably a good time to buy. I think crypto's maybe perhaps seen its bottoms, but again, we're not talking about something that can just rebound after all that leverage is unwound. I mean, it's going to take a lot of time to recoup that. So anyone getting in now, congrats. Any of us that were buying the tops like I was, you know, you may have to cost average in here and just mitigate your risk and, you know, realize you're speculating, because it's going to take a long time, I think, for crypto to just rebound back to all-time highs. But that's just my current take. This is one man's opinion, and I'm going to pass the question off to you. I'd love to know what you guys think about the general markets here. Do you think we're going to continue to go higher? Do you think we're going to flatline? Do you think we're going to head back to new lows? I'd love to hear your opinion, because, man, everyone's got one, and sometimes I always just revert back to the median of just, I'm going to keep buying. I'm not going to worry about the volatility, and it continues to work into my favor, as I'm sure it will, as it always has since the inception of the stock market. But let me know what you think. Stay cool, stay awesome, and as always, I look forward to catching you in the next one.